Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we take the sources you share and turn them into insights. Today, we're looking at a really radical shift in perspective. It's from a new book by Vilas Boas called Sem Buraco, Nada Existiria.
Which translates to, without a hole, nothing would exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a huge claim.
It's a beautifully simple but structurally devastating thesis. For too long, we've been obsessed with the presence of things, the solids, the matter, the stuff we can touch. Yeah. Boas argues that's just. It's the lazy way to see reality. He's saying that absence, the void, what he calls a buraco, that's not a defect. It's not a lack of something.
It's the condition for everything else.
It is the fundamental, necessary condition for functionality, for distinction, and for life itself.
So our mission today is to really follow that argument. We're going to start with simple objects and then scale all the way up to the cosmos.
And the question is the whole a problem we need to fix, or is it actually the reason anything works at all?
Right. And before we dive in, we should talk about the author because his story it's crucial.
It really is.
Yeah.
Vilas Boas, born in 1973, is this remarkable autodidact. I mean, he left school when he was 14.
14? Why?
He said, professors do not respond. They had no answers for my questions. But the real driving force, the deepest buraco in his own life, was the loss of his daughter, Ariadne.
Oh, wow.
She passed away in 1997. She was only 1 year and 2 months old. And that raw, unfillable absence, that's what fueled these radical questions. He was trying to find meaning in the emptiness.
That context just changes everything. It makes this whole thing intensely moving. Okay, so let's start with the physical world. He says when we look at a solid object, we're basically ignoring what makes it useful.
Exactly. We focus on the shell, the perimeter, when we should be looking at the function, which is enabled by the lack of material.
His first example is the car, which, we think of as this big solid thing. The engine, the steel.
Proletariat, the metal structure. But imagine that car is just one seamless block of metal. No doors, no windows, no space for seats.
It's not a car anymore. It's a statue, a very heavy, useless sculpture.
Right. The hole is what lets you get in and use it. It's the recorte, the precise cutout in the solid wall that gives it purpose.
And this goes down to the tiny details. The fuel tank is useless without the opening, the bocal.
Or the tire. A tire holds air because of that tiny controlled micro hole of the valve. That managed absence keeps you moving. An uncontrolled hole of puncture is a disaster.
So mobility and paralysis are just... The difference is how you manage the empty space.
It is.
But couldn't you argue the solid part is primary? I mean, it's what protects the whole.
And that's where he really challenges our intuition. He says the material exists in service of the void. Think about a house. You need walls, a roof, but a solid block with no doors, no windows, no pipes.
He calls it a tomb or a prison.
Yeah. Functionality requires planned absence. The material is just the frame that protects the useful emptiness inside.
So a cup isn't the glass, it's the empty space, the oko. The glass is just the container for the useful part.
A solid block of glass is just a paperweight. An organized empty space is a drinking vessel. It forces a total redefinition of value.
Okay, so let's scale this up. What about big, complex machines? We see those as the ultimate triumph of solid material.
Like a ship.
Yeah, naval architecture, these massive things made of tons of steel.
But a ship floats, not because of the steel. It floats because the hull is basically a rigid container protecting a huge volume of air, a void.
So flotation is completely dependent on the emptiness inside.
Completely. If water gets in an uncontrolled hole, that protective void is lost and the ship sinks. The entire system's stability depends on maintaining that huge controlled absence.
That makes me think about a firearm. Its power comes from that explosion.
Right, but an explosion is just chaotic energy.
Yeah.
The firearm's power comes entirely from the hollow tube, the barrel, that channels that energy forward. Without that precise cylindrical hole, it's just a puff of heat. The hole delivers the force.
Okay, let's pivot from steel and ships to the most intimate machine, the human body. He calls us a sophisticated set of organized wholes.
Which is a little disturbing, but he's not wrong.
It's totally accurate. Our body is just a system of tunnels and chambers, all designed for movement.
Start with breathing. It's the most basic thing. Air comes in through holes, your nose, your mouth, and travels through these channels to millions of microscopic voids, the alveoli.
Close those passages for a few seconds, the whole system shuts down.
And then there's circulation. The heart is just chambers filling and emptying, a dynamic void. The veins and arteries, they're essential empty tunnels for blood. It's all built around the need for clear passages.
So this raises a really powerful question he asks in the book. If the whole is the key to life, what is disease?
His answer is just. It's brilliant. Many serious diseases, he says, are the result of the loss of internal space.
Like a heart attack or a stroke.
Exactly. When your arteries get blocked or narrowed by plaque, the functional void is compromised. The channel closes up.
So the cure isn't adding something, it's restoring the absence.
Yes. A stent, a bypass. What are they doing? They're reopening the channel.
Yeah.
Or creating a new one. Modern medicine is often just the science of managing the void.
And this connects right back to his personal story.
It does. His appendicitis in 2016, he had a blockage that was threatening a catastrophic internal collapse. The surgery that saved his life was a temporary controlled hole. A surgeon made a cut to restore safety.
He calls his scar the Baracco Salvador.
The saving hole. It's this physical proof that sometimes the only way to heal is to make a strategic absence, a controlled cut.
And that physical cut connects directly to the emotional void left by his daughter. That loss created this painful, unfillable Baracco.
Right. He doesn't pretend it wasn't painful. But he says that absence was the catalyst. It was the cavity that forced him to look deeper, beyond the surface of things.
The void made him fill the gap with inquiry, not just distraction.
It's an incredible example of how a devastating negative space can shape the entire architecture of a person's life and philosophy.
That is a powerful connection. So, from the body as a sponge, let's scale up again. The city. A city feels like pure construction, the ultimate solid thing.
But he argues it's completely reliant on absence.
How so?
Well, imagine a city where every building touched. It would be an impassable, suffocating monolith. Streets are just horizontal holes that allow for access and circulation. Without them, it's just chaos.
And what about parks? Central Park, for example. That's some of the most expensive real estate on the planet.
And it's valuable because of what it isn't. It's an expensive, crucial void that acts as the city's lungs. It lets in air, light, and mental space.
And even inside the buildings, a skyscraper is useless without its internal voids.
Elevator shafts, stairwells, air ducts. Without those vertical channels, it's just a mountain of concrete.
But the really wild part is the city we don't see, the one underground.
Absolutely. The whole city rests on this hidden network of functional holes. Sewer lines, subways, utility tunnels. This entire subterranean architecture of absence is circulating water, energy, and people.
The city only works because of the managed voids above, around, and below us.
It's overwhelming when you think about it. The infrastructure supporting civilization is mostly invisible, and it's all about carefully engineered emptiness.
Okay, this is where it gets really abstract. In chapter 5, he applies this idea to our minds, to thought itself.
Right. And he posits that thinking itself is an act of separation. To name something, say, this is a book, is to create a conceptual whole. You're separating it from everything it is not.
So you can't identify anything without creating a boundary around it.
If everything in your mind was just one big, undifferentiated mass, you couldn't perceive anything. He says the mind is a machine for cutting out voids.
That's a fascinating, almost violent way to describe thought. But if we're always just defining things by what they're not, isn't that a bit simplistic?
It's not just a semantic trick. It's an operational necessity. Look at language. Words are kind of hollow by design. They're shells that get filled with meaning by context and interpretation.
And silence in a conversation. If we don't leave pauses, space between the words, the meaning gets lost. We have to give you, the listener, that silence to process.
Absolutely. The space between the bits of information is what lets the information organize in your mind, which leads him to doubt.
Which we usually see as a weakness, a problem to solve.
But he calls it a buraco na certeza, a hole in certainty.
And that hole is essential.
It's uncomfortable, for sure, but that cavity, that vacuum, is where new investigation and change can actually begin. If you plug that hole too quickly with an easy answer or a comfortable lie, you stop growing.
So you have to be willing to sit in the void of not knowing.
That's the precondition for learning something genuinely new.
But what about the danger of too much doubt? Couldn't that hole become a paralyzing abyss where you can never act or commit to anything?
He acknowledges that balance. A healthy buraco is structured. It's a temporary cavity that demands you work to fill it, like a doorway or a fuel tank. An unproductive hole is the uncontrolled void, the puncture, the abyss of despair. It takes effort to make sure the whole is functional, not collapsing.
A crucial distinction. Okay, let's take this to the absolute limit, the origin of everything. The Big Bang, God, the biggest hole of all.
This is where our language really starts to break down. We imagine the Big Bang as an explosion, but an explosion has to happen somewhere.
Right. It needs a where to explode into. If the Big Bang was the start of space and time itself, what was there before?
Even modern scientific models describing the expansion of space-time, they still need this conceptual structure of absence, a condition of not yet space that allowed the universe to appear. It's a hole in the before.
It's the ultimate paradox.
And it doesn't matter if you're talking physics or theology. The narrative of creatio ex nihilo, creation from nothing, it requires the nothing.
The nothingness acts as a silent, infinite stage.
Exactly. The creation gets its meaning by being contrasted against that total void. The power of a creator is highlighted by the scale of the original absence they filled.
So the conclusion holds up at every single scale. Physics, faith. Both need the structure of absence.
The whole isn't a defect. It might not even be a thing. It's the condition that allows anything to appear and be distinguished at all. Without that boundary between being and not yet being, there's no identity, no difference, no universe.
And that brings us right back to the start. From a coffee cup to your heart to the city to the cosmos, everything is held up by this invisible architecture of managed voids. Reality isn't a solid block. It's more like a delicate, organized sponge.
So if life and thought and everything else depend on keeping channels open, the challenge this deep dive leaves you with is intensely personal. How do you manage the non-physical baraccos in your own life? The losses, the uncertainties, the silences. They aren't failures. They are the cavities that compel change.
So when everything seems to depend on a space to appear, did something actually come before the whole? Or has the whole always been there, just waiting for the rest of existence to notice it was living inside it? Something to think about until our next deep dive.